This is Jessica.
And this is Kelly. And this is the Chasing Brighter
podcast. I'm very excited about how my hair looks.
Great. You know what else makes your hair look great, Jess?
Washing it.
The Warrior Strong Wellness collagen peptides and bone broth. I've noticed a huge difference with just the health of my hair. I just have naturally thin hair. So
collagen's so good for hair, nails, skin. Check out warriorstrongwellness.com for their collagen peptides and bone broth or their multi-collagen protein powder.
If you use the Chasing Brighter code, all one word, Chasing Brighter, you can get 10% off of your purchase.
Hi, everyone. Today, we are going to be talking about our May book club pick, which is Brighter by the Day, Waking Up to New Hopes and Dreams by Robin Roberts. In her memoir, the Good Morning America co-anchor shares a powerful message of positivity and optimistic thinking that has propelled her through many challenging times. Hi, Jess. How are you?
Yeah, good. What did you think about this book?
It oozes of positivity and positive thinking. Every day that I was reading it, I felt more optimistic about things. Especially, it just makes me realize sometimes where it is amazing how just one's mindset can completely change one's outlook on life and what's going on. What do you think?
I think it was a bit Pollyanna-ish. Like if you were in a really, really, really negative headspace, I think you'd throw the book against the wall, possibly. And I think you probably have to do a little bit of work before even going to this book, if that makes any sense. And this is a really stressful month for me, always has been. And I don't think I'm in a negative headspace. I just think I'm really, really stressed out. And it's because for us with 3 kids, it's the end of year everything. It's end of year tournaments, end of year
there's a lot of activities,
your award ceremonies. Mm-hmm. Like my schedule is definitely 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. totally booked. And so I guess what I want to say that I think was a little bit missing in this book is we've talked a lot about the RAIN method over this season. And it's
which
kind
is
of like,
recognize.
Mm-hmm. And then do some things with the A.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like acknowledge?
Acknowledge, investigate.
Those are good. Look at us.
Name it.
No. Nurture it with self.
Nurture it. Recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture.
And so you need to allow the experience to be there. And I don't know if there was room in this book, and you let me know, to allow yourself those feelings. And so it was very much like mindset. But sometimes we don't want to be so positive that you're glossing over your experience and you're not allowing that experience to flow over you. So I'm not saying wallow in it. But anyways, that was my critique. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that it is definitely easy to, tell the story in a way that is like, oh, everything's fine. Everything's great. I did all these things that are really hard, but I'm great in the end. And it's hard when you're in it, right? So it's easy to write a book about that. So I appreciated, though, like the book is just jam-packed with anecdotes, positive sayings, cliches, all the things that you can probably fill a house with all the quotes in the book about positive things.
Yeah, and I mean, love that. Yeah, that was the inspiration because, Robin Roberts has had a difficult life. She has fought cancer twice. She has this other chronic disease. She's
broken through the glass ceiling, being an African-American woman in the sports casting world, which was really a huge uphill battle. And I don't think and I don't think she even talked as much as she could have about all that. I also saw maybe she saved that for other books because she has quite a few other books now. Yeah. She talked a lot about like her mom and how her mom played a really important role in her life and how her mom really had just such a a strong grounding and perspective on life. And I think that's where she channeled a lot of it. But she talked about, her mom taught her to use your mistakes to be lessons to others, and how using your misfortunes is something others can relate to. And when I think about that, I think that's something that kind of stuck with me, right? So we make mistakes daily, using those as a lesson to others, or things that we feel like we've done, even with our kids and parenting. Using your misfortunes, that word misfortune just seems so like not good. As something others can relate to. It's easy to say that when you're like the co-anchor of Good Morning America, and you have a tribe of people who do your hair and makeup and pretty much like soft land you all day long, protect people from coming in your door of your office and blah, blah, blah. But it's also a very demanding job. And I think one of the things that I liked about her story in the beginning was the fact that she used transcendental meditation to help manage stress and anxiety. And I think that is something that you hear time and time again, especially with people in very, very demanding jobs who are incredibly successful, is they use that tool of meditation to really manage stress and anxiety, because it's always there for all of us.
I think that goes, kind of looking at our takeaways from the book, and I loved the takeaways. What you can take away from this book are really key tools that I believe you and I already utilize in our life to have a positive mindset. And it just reinforces that. And I like when she shared her journey. I mean, she was very vulnerable in this book. And I know this was a tiny book. This is a very short book. This isn't like, oh, this is my entire memoir, right? It's like 200, and I'll look it up right now. 200.
I think it's if you want
pages.
This is the list of like people who are trying, if any of you are trying to read a self-help book every once in a while, this is a fantastic read. It's very motivating. It's very happy. It's very inspirational, and it's short. You could read it in a day if you wanted to. But if
you need to work through some shit and need to work through some heavier stuff, maybe your borderline depression, this probably isn't for you. But if you've begun a journey a little bit, I think this reinforces, some of that stuff. And I like how she shared her journey of meditation. It wasn't easy. It's not like someone said meditate and she was like, bam, bam, meditate. No, but like she's had to very purposefully and mindfully create a system in her life to provide for time for meditation. And her meditations aren't always wonderful. Like she's not leaving them every time like life changing, but it's a habit she's created. That's one key piece in an overall, like to maintain her overall health and well-being.
So one of the reasons why we chose this book was because I loved the title, and it very much resonates with what we're trying to do and the work we have done or continue to do on our own life journey of chasing brighter. The idea of brighter by the day is just continuing to, live your best life and make every day better than the one before. And so I really just loved the overall purpose of the book in that way. It was part of what our mission is at Chasing Brighter, Yeah.
And I think, the title Brighter by the Day, like if you implement small steps every day can be better than the one before. Right. And I think too, I was talking to my friend when she was visiting, Dr. Sarah DeMorney has been on the podcast before. And I was talking to her, she was visiting, and just that like, I choose joy. Like life is hard. My marriage is not perfect. My life is not perfect. Things are hard and things are a struggle, but I'm going to choose joy. I'm going to choose to be joyful about it. And I'm going to be grateful. And that's kind of like our other takeaway about a gratitude practice. But it's like, nothing's perfect, but I'm going to make the best of it.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, she talked about how in order for you to change the way you need to change the way you think in order to change the way you feel. And
behavioral therapy.
I know that's where it's like, it's so easy to say these things. It's different to put them into action. I found myself like, jumping out of bed in the morning, having read this, where I'm like, oh, I got to do this and do that. And I felt so motivated. And it definitely, a lot of the quips in the book really just kind of wash over me and make me feel like I need to do these things more. And even from as a parent, like she talked about how her mom said all these like super wise sayings. Jess, I don't know how you are. Oh, you did have that one time Gabby texted you something that you were like, oh, damn, I am pretty brilliant. Yeah. But like, I need to like at least maybe write these in a little note. And then when Wes is having a hard day, I could just go back to them, because when he gets into his 40s, I want him to tell everybody all the things I used to say when I'm an old rickety lady.
Well, and I think not that, and I didn't read her mother's book and I don't know about her mother. But I think her mother had no time, which served as a purpose and inspiration, but I don't think her mother had time for complaining. And so I don't feel like her mother might have been a very good person for validation or validating her feelings. But there is something to be said about a generation that's tough as nails, get things done, put your nose to the grindstone, do what you got to do, be grateful, trust in God. Those are all things that I think created Robin and helped Robin, but again, I'm not trying to be down on this book, because I think it was a really great book. But I do think that we can allow for a little bit of space to feel the feels. I didn't get from this book feel the feels in any of it. So I think feel the feels in addition to all of these other things.
I think this is all about the narrative, right? So her narrative, even on her very difficult times, was like how she stayed positive and how it helped her get through stuff, and how she has this amazing group of people. And it does.
When she says, determine the vibe in your tribe. Is that what you're talking about?
That
right? Like
is what I loved too. She talked about, really, again, I don't think she goes into great detail, but there are friendships that she's had to end because of, people who were toxic. And, we've talked about this on other books or people who steal your joy. It goes back to even the social media topics we had, where it's like starting to be aware of like the things that make you happy and being around people who you don't want to leave. When you walk away from a person and you're like, oh God, I'm so glad I got out of that conversation. That's probably not somebody you want to be with, and starting to figure out how to set boundaries.
Well, I think that's in the good life, right? Like if a relationship is energizing or depleting, and if a relationship is exclusively depleting, you might want to set some boundaries around that or end that relationship. And she says when someone only wants the best for you, or if they're scorekeepers, right? And so I think of that like a one-upper, and it's like, are you finding yourself like competitive with the friend and not feeling joy for them? And if you can't work through that, he talks about that. Jay Shetty talks about in his book, Think Like a Monk. Like if you're struggling to find joy when a friend is successful, there's a way you can work through that. But if you can't work through that and that relationship ends up being depleting, then maybe you need to set boundaries around that relationship.
Yeah, I love that too. And it does make you aware of friends who you feel like you can be your true authentic self with, and you don't feel judged or responded, whether it is like making you feel bad or making you feel uncomfortable because they feel like they have to compete with you. Like you said, the scorekeeping, it definitely makes me think about, different friendships I have or people I know and what kind of relationships I have with them. Mm-hmm. It also, the other one that I think I liked in the book that I kind of want to sit with more as a women-owned business is to set big goals, but focus small. And that you have to figure out what that means in your own life. She talked about, even just her own career. She wanted to be a sportscaster on ESPN, and what her life plan was that she was going to do this and then do that. And so she had this like clear view of how she was going to get there. And it made it easier for her to achieve that. And I think sometimes with the goals, to me, that's the hardest part is the how you get there. If I knew how to get somewhere easily, it would be easier to achieve the goal. But really focusing on those small steps, one at a time, to work toward those goals.
Yeah. What's that thing? Isn't it called SMART? SMART
Simple,
goals.
measurable, attainable.
Mm-hmm.
R and T.
R-ing and T-ing. Okay, let's think what we think R is. And T. Well, anyways, my kids are learning that and have been learning that at that school.
Relevant and time bound.
Okay. So we didn't have that kind of education. So maybe we need to figure out that relevant and time bound. You're right. Like, it's not that you can't think about small objectives, but I think a lot of times we think big picture. And so it's like, okay, if that's where I want to be, I'm gonna have to really sit and think what step here, what step here, what step here will get me to that big goal.
Yeah.
We don't want to, you can, but like she's saying, like, you might not want to just jump to that big goal. Well, I think, you know what? It goes back to, again, I know the Good Life Book Club, but I think that when they said they were interviewing a certain generation of people, I think people want to jump to that big goal. But it's like, no, you've got to really put some work in and have some small goals before you can get to that big thing.
Yes. And the other part is pivoting too. Like maybe you learned that your goal evolves over time.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think we didn't talk too. I know I said gratitude, but just like she has a gratitude practice. We try to talk at our table what we're grateful for. We're sitting around. I like to talk to the kids about. Is there anything in particular you do for gratitude practice?
I use my weekly planner, so I'm doing stuff on a weekly basis. Mm-hmm. And I think on a daily gratitude, no, I really feel like that's something I need to work on more. I love how it gives us perspective. She just talked about how it gives you perspective about your life. And it's so true to really be grateful for where you are now and what you have. And helping that, it helps put other things in perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And you were just talking about the mistakes and misfortunes that she just talks about. You can use those as lessons for others. I think publicly we struggle to be vulnerable publicly. And so maybe that's something that, we can work on what we've learned, kind of what not to do. I can do that probably for parenting, right? We can learn, okay, that was not the right way to deal with that situation, but that can go forth with our work, with relationships, really kind of thinking how we can flip that into a lesson.
Exactly.
And not beat yourself up about it.
Exactly. And I think it's not that. I think it's, again, a lot of this is helping to, in my ways, in some ways, I feel like it's like coping. So, because I can't be like, oh, I just, put a scratch on my new kitchen appliance. Oh, well, let me think about how I can use that as a lesson for others. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like in these moments of that. So, I mean, it's different little,
well, I think ways about I guess it's also just a way of reframing it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm going to look back on this and have learned something, and I don't need to beat myself up about making big mistakes. Side note, did you scratch a new kitchen appliance?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Knock on wood.
I also like that she talks about finding your fun and how she remembers how much she loved tennis. Didn't she go to state for doubles in tennis in high school or something? And she
was a great athlete all around. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she was like, I used to play tennis all the time and really started getting into tennis in 2019. And so I think that it's like finding your joy, finding fun. I think for some of us, it's when when we have to be accountable for it, when you sign up for a lesson, sign up for a team, sign up to go do something, that helps us become accountable and prioritize our fun.
Yes.
You know, I really would like to, I don't know, I put it in my legend planner to take pickleball lessons.
Oh, yay.
Is that blowing up by you guys? It's kind of everywhere. Pickleball huge by you, or?
It is huge, but again, Kelly's view of the world is I just like to play and hit. I don't know how to score. I did take a class once. It was pretty fun, but it's too much complexities. I love the game. And so we have the pickleball stuff and we live by a tennis court. So the kids and I play all the time, and they'll bring a friend because it's super approachable way to play. And we just play on the tennis court. Some people are like, they don't have the pickleball lines. And I'm like, who cares? Like, we're just hitting around. So
right.
Kelly's view of pickleball is different than, other people
would
who
be shunned by the pickleball community. We probably just lost 4 listeners.
We might have. And I probably need to actually legitimately pick it up. I heard they're adding, because the health club I belong to is really big right now into pickleball. But I dove really deep into tennis last year, and it just got really intense, and I just want to play around. I don't want to feel like super competitive. And so
it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle here. Tennis is. I don't like, it's what you're saying. So it's probably there too. It's not something you can play around with.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. And I thought she said that in the book about it not being fun, not being competitive. There was something in there.
I think that you have to know how to play and play regularly. It's like golf in some way too.
Well, because I think we've talked about this before, depending on your personality type. When you were saying, Jessica, you should join a hiking club. And I was like, well, no, because I'm too competitive for that to be fun for me. So I think it's also knowing yourself. Like you're saying, oh, I like tennis. That's fun. But like more, it's like a lifestyle. So maybe that's not something you can just dip your toe in here. So I'm going to find a way to, it's like, and so it's like, I know I listened to Mark Maron's podcast, WTF, and he was like, I went to visit my brother and he was like, my brother's in a cult. And I was like, intrigued. What happened to his brother? And it was pickleball. He was like talking about it. And I know Justin sent me something. There's like a lot of jokes. I think pickleball is like the new CrossFit. You know how like CrossFit was like, oh, you're paleo and you're CrossFit, and CrossFit's a lifestyle, and it was this whole thing. I think that's like the new thing for pickleball. So I don't know if it's possible for me to gently do it, but I would just like to take lessons, learn a little bit about it so I could play around.
I highly recommend it. It is really fun.
Workout. I'm thinking, right?
It's a fantastic workout. Yeah. And I think going back to even tennis, what I did pick up or what I have learned is the kids can play tennis. And so that's enough for me now. Like doing what you have, that's fun. I find it fun to use pickleball and tennis as a family activity right now for myself and sometimes with friends. And so that's what brings me joy. It didn't bring me joy when I was like waking up at 7 a.m. to go to a singles match because I got really into tennis. And I was like, this is like not my thing. So I have, it's kind of figuring out what your boundaries are. But
did you keep your tennis wardrobe, and can you apply that to regular daily?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. In fact, the thing though is like, I wore this like tennis skirt to work out the other day and people are like, oh, you got to go play tennis. I was like, no, I'm just wearing this today. But I think the message there too was like, do things that you enjoy once in a while. Like think about things you used to have fun. I loved when she talked about when she was in high school, I think it was, or growing up, and she played tetherball, like just silly things. It doesn't have to be like any sort of big sport, but just doing some things that truly bring you joy, put a smile on your face. And they don't have to be complicated.
Yeah. We have a lot of adult kickball leagues here, which I think would be so fun. Looking at, I think as a therapist, that's what you do a lot of times with clients. It's like, well, when was the last time you felt like you were functioning your best and feeling really great? And what were you doing then? Right. So that's a great question to ask yourself, right? What were the things I was doing when I was really happy? And for some of us, that might unfortunately go all the way back to like childhood, but like what was happening? Did you have an easy bake oven and you loved baking? Did you, whatever?
Yeah. Yep.
What did you do as a child, Kelly, that made you happy? You were sewing for a minute.
I sucked at sewing. I didn't enjoy sewing. I still I'm hot and cold on sewing. what I used to do, we were laughing this past weekend, is I used to love to shop. I never bought much, but I could just shop all the time. I could just be at a mall and shop. I do still love fashion and I like looking at things, but I do not like trying on things. I mean, it's fine, but it's a lot of effort, you know, to like pick out stuff and then it fits or it doesn't fit, or it's like way too expensive, or it's, you know, they don't have your size or all those things. And it's a lot of like reps of that, which I don't enjoy. I do just like window shopping. I think that's fun.
I love, I love shopping, but you were not down like at Cooperstown. Like I could go into like a little main street, like when I was visiting you in Chicago, that little street, and go in all those little stores and pick up every single piece of jewelry and bracelet and earrings and peruse and look.
Yeah, I have like a
everything.
45-minute shelf life on stuff.
You don't have that patience. But I think my two older kids and I could do that forever. You know, just look and look and look. And not about anything. I think when I'm like, what was the like, okay, so I think when we lived in Colorado, I think that was awesome because we could walk to that park all the time. You know, we walked to that playground all the time. I remember it snowed and like playing in snow, and that was so awesome, and riding our bikes. So I'm back into bike riding, which, you know, but also I want to say like best times of my life was when I was with Julie, and like every day, I don't know if it was 5th or 6th grade, for like 3 years, I went to her house or she went to my house every single day after school. Like we were just together all the time. And I think for me, I love being social and having like intimate friendships and just being with you know what I mean? Just having like one good person to hang out with and talk to, and, you know, whatever it is we're talking about, and being together. So I think it's like maybe that's kind of back to like, you know, determine the vibe in your tribe, but just like being with people who have a good vibe really fills my cup. And Julie and I did the dumbest things. We baked, we read, like we did crafts, we, you know, babysat, like we just did everything together. And so for me, I'm a pretty social creature and an extrovert that way, of like filling my cup with a good vibe.
I like that, Jess.
Yeah.
I think for me, what is fun is just always being on the go. Honestly, you know, I mean, I think about like just trying new things. Like I went out to dinner by myself last week. Did I tell you that?
No, but that sounds delightful.
It was amazing.
Did you bring a book?
I had my phone. I did my Wordle and my Quirtle.
I'm so behind on Wordle and Quirtle.
I feel like as a busy mother, I really enjoyed being by myself and eating dinner. I could pick whatever I wanted on the menu. Not that it matters. Also, when you eat by yourself, it's short. It's a short time because it's not like you've got a lot to talk to somebody about or something. I don't know. I just found it to be a very peaceful, like easy hour activity of like kind of self-care.
Yeah, I did. I know we've talked about this before. Have we been to Skinny Fats? Have I taken you to Skinny Fats?
Yes, we ordered it. We ordered it to go.
So when I had one pukey kid and everyone else was out on Friday, I was like, I'm gonna order some Skinny Fats, because nobody, you know, very like only Dominic and I like it. And they have this thing, Spuds McCurry, and it's a sweet potato with curry on it. It's just so delightful.
It's delicious.
And I'm like, it's basically a health food because I'm eating a sweet potato. I might as well have a salad. so it was by myself because you know, Gio was asleep, and so but it was at my house. I wasn't out in public. But it was just relaxing and being able to order whatever I wanted. And
yeah. I mean, also I think we both love like water and like being by the water and swimming or just chilling. I mean, have you guys been back in the pool lately?
We went to Mom and Dad's on Sunday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Pool heater. If you want to know a saga, we have had 2 or 3 no shows for pool technicians. So we're on our next one of someone coming on the 20th. And also, if this one doesn't come, I'm going to school to become a pool technician at this point, because I'm so annoyed.
I'm sure you can find it on YouTube.
Our heater, our house is like 20 years old, and I'm sure more than that. Our house is 24 years old, and our pool heater is like 22 years old. We know we need a new one, but no one will give us one. No one will do anything for us. So anyway, we love swimming. I love the pool. Giovanni loves swimming. I swam. That's what Julie and I did. I went to Julie's club and I would put things on their family tab because Julie and
I think I would tag along with you guys.
We were like,
at
I'll have
Highlands.
a Coke, put it on the tag, put it on the tab.
I think I would just like
Yeah.
ride along,
I
but
would go there
not
by
buy
myself.
anything.
Yeah, Shelly would drive us and drop us off, and we would just be like there all day long. So yeah, swimming, the water, definitely. And so I think that if you're having a hard time, I don't know what makes me happy. I don't know what brings me joy. Like look back to a time where, you know, you felt like you were joyful and see if there's any way that you can implement that today.
I agree. I like that. And I think it's always something you can keep playing around with. The last takeaway that I really enjoyed, and it's something that I think is really helpful, especially when you are going through some challenging times, is that when you get out of your comfort zone, getting out of your comfort zone and being okay with that. She says, being uncomfortable doesn't mean I'm failing. It means I'm succeeding. And I really like that, especially when things aren't going the way you want them to and you aren't feeling right. It means that you're doing something right. And I do think sometimes when you're uncomfortable like that, you're growing, right? You're learning something different and you're succeeding because you're learning how to be resilient too, right, Jess?
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole part of being uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know I've talked about it before, but I had read a book last year where he said we think we need to be comfortable all the time. And it's just like we don't. We can sit with discomfort and it's okay. And growth can come from that, you know? And I think like I'm interested. I don't know if you thought about this at all. Did you think at all about what Robin Roberts' Enneagram was after reading this?
You have these Enneagrams down just right, down pat, huh?
No, I don't have them memorized. I just like, you know, what do you think she was? If you listen to this, there's, you know, people.
The enthusiast.
You think she's that's you. An enthusiast, right, doesn't want to be. You're right. She could totally be an enthusiast or an achiever. They're very similar. So an enthusiast, right, doesn't want to be bored, doesn't want to experience feelings. They just only want to do things that are fun and interesting. So she did talk about, right, like she has like several jobs and several businesses in a production company. So she might be, you know, uncomfortable with just sitting or being. But I think about the achiever too, right? Like having like worthiness comes with what you achieve.
Yeah. One of the things that she said at the end of the book that I feel like is very much who you and I are is when she said, always grateful. I don't know about that part. We'll have to work on it. But always grateful, never content, constantly moving the goalpost to stretch. And I think that was really cool for us because I do feel like it when it's like never content, right? It's like I'm grateful for everything I have, but it's like I want more. I want to live my best life. I don't want to just there. I know that there's no there, but the purpose of life is that pursuit, right? That it's all about the journey, not the destination, right? And so I love that. I mean, if you think about like what we're doing with Chasing Brighter and like what we are as people, right? Constantly moving. You're going to take up pickleball soon. You're constantly moving. You're stretching your goalpost and trying new things.
But you said it there. It's a journey. And so if you think that you've stopped at this destination, good for you. But like you and I are like, well, what's over the hill? What's over the mountain? What's around the corner? Like, I just want to go one more. Let me just peek over here and see. And I think that also boils down to curiosity, right? Curiosity. And you can be grateful and not content. I think that, you know, will take a while for my brain to wrap around that. But, you know, you can be grateful for everything you have, but still, you know, want to keep on moving and pushing and seeing what's next. It doesn't mean you're ungrateful.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think so. This book was really uplifting. It was really, really uplifting. And I think it was great. Again, I think it's a great read. If you're already on a journey where you're trying to be your best self and you are looking for more, I think that there are a lot of great tips and it's incredibly inspirational.
I agree.
Thanks for listening and joining us today.
And don't forget to follow us on social media at Chasing Brighter or on our blog, chasingbrighter.com.